He made me his wife, said I was his honor. But every night, he gave his love to someone else. But then, I turned his love into the punishment he could never escape. He made me his wife, said I was his honor. But looking back now, those words were just velvet-coated lies. Our wedding day was perfect. Or at least, it looked perfect. The soft red roses, the gentle music, the sacred fire flickering between us as we circled it hand in hand. He looked into my eyes and told me I was his world, his pride, the woman he had waited his whole life for. Everyone clapped. My mother cried. My heart believed. I was raised to think marriage was sacred. That once two souls were tied together, nothing could sever them. So when he tied that thread around my neck and placed vermilion in my hair, I thought I had finally found peace. A home. A man who would hold my hand when storms came. For a while, everything seemed beautiful. He'd come home from work with flowers, kiss my forehead, and tell me how lucky he was to have me. He made me laugh over dinner. He held my hand as we watched late-night movies. He even wrote me little notes and left them on the fridge, things like, I miss you when I blink. My heart swelled with gratitude. I prayed for him every night, thanked the universe for giving me a husband who made love feel gentle. But slowly, something began to shift. He started coming home late. The flowers stopped. The fridge notes disappeared. His kisses became distracted, hollow. I told myself he was just tired. That maybe he was under pressure at work. I kept cooking his favorite dishes, wearing the colors he loved, waiting up late just to see his face. But the man who once called me his world now barely noticed when I was in the room. Then came the scent. The faintest trace of perfume, not mine. Sweet and floral, clinging to his collar when he'd walk in late at night. I told myself I was imagining it. I had to be. He couldn't, no, he wouldn't. I asked him once, whose perfume is that? He smiled, tired and dismissive. My colleague hugged me. She wears too much. He made it sound silly. Like I was overthinking. I laughed awkwardly and let it go. But the perfume came again. And again. And soon, there were more signs. Lipstick marks that didn't match mine. Unexplained receipts. Coldness in bed. His phone, once left anywhere, was now locked and always on silent. One night, he came home well past midnight. I had waited for hours, dinner gone cold. I asked gently, where were you? He didn't even meet my eyes. Out. Don't start. My heart sank. I didn't know who this version of him was. Distant, cold, irritated. I missed the man who used to kiss my hands just because they cooked for him. The man who once told my father, I will protect her with my life. Now, I was the one trying to protect myself from him. But still, I tried. I begged silently. I changed myself, wore new clothes, tried new recipes, laughed harder at his jokes, even when they weren't funny anymore. But nothing worked. Nothing was ever enough. Until one evening, when fate finally stopped trying to be kind. He left his phone unlocked by mistake. He was in the shower. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I didn't want to be that wife, the one who snoops. But my instincts had been screaming for months. What I found shattered every illusion. Dozens of messages, pictures, voice notes, to a woman named Ria. She wasn't just a fling. She was his real world. The sweet words he once gave me now belong to her. I hate pretending with her. You're the one I want to come home to. She's just my wife on paper. I stood there, numb. My heart didn't break. It burned. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to cry in corners anymore. I had been the perfect wife, loyal, gentle, devoted. And he took all of that and spat on it. He wanted love to feel like a game. Then I would show him how it feels when the game becomes a war. Because from that night on, I wasn't his wife. I was the woman he would never see coming. I stared at the messages again. Each one was a knife, But the sharpest one came with a photo, him and Ria at some rooftop bar, arms around each other, laughing. I knew that shirt. It was the same one he wore the night he told me he had a team dinner. That was the moment the love inside me turned to ash. He hadn't just betrayed our marriage, he'd mocked it. While I was home warming his food and praying for his safety, he was warming someone else's bed, telling her the lies he used to tell me. The steam from the bathroom trailed into the bedroom as he stepped out, towel around his waist, casually humming a tune. I stood still, holding his phone in my trembling hands. He froze when he saw me. "What are you doing?" he asked, voice low but sharp. "I could ask you the same," I replied, my voice colder than the tiles beneath my feet. He reached for the phone. I didn't let go. "So, Ria? Is that her name now?" For a split second, his face dropped. He was exposed, caught without an excuse. But men like him? They're practiced in manipulation. "She means nothing," he said flatly. "It was a mistake." I laughed, dry and bitter. "Oh, really? You told her I was just your wife on paper. That's not a mistake. That's a choice." He walked past me, like the conversation was an inconvenience. "You're overreacting." Overreacting. That word. The favorite weapon of cowards who run from the truth. "No," I said. "I've been underreacting for too long." He turned, annoyed now. "What do you want from me? I come home, don't I? I provide. I haven't left you." I felt a chill run through me. In his mind, that was enough. I should be grateful he hadn't walked away. As if staying physically present while emotionally slaughtering me every day was some act of mercy. "You haven't left me," I whispered. "You've just made sure I never feel wanted." He didn't apologize. He didn't explain. He just muttered something under his breath and got dressed. That night, he slept beside me like nothing had happened. But I couldn't sleep. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, counting every moment he had ever made me feel special, and realizing now, they were all rehearsals in a script he never meant to keep. The next morning, I woke up before him. I watched his face, so peaceful, so shameless. And that's when I decided, if he could be so calm after destroying me, I would learn to be calm too. But my calm would have a purpose. I started with silence. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I became the quiet shadow he thought he wanted. I stopped texting him during the day. Stopped waiting by the door when he came home. No more packed lunches. No more ironed shirts. I didn't tell him I loved him. I didn't ask where he'd been. And he didn't even notice. He liked me quiet. Easy. Numb. Good. That's what I wanted him to think. Because while he was busy sleeping with her, I was waking up. I began watching. Studying. Observing his every move. The calls he took on the balcony. The lies he told without blinking. The little patterns he never noticed I noticed. He thought I was broken. But I was building something. Every woman has a breaking point. But mine wasn't tears or silence. Mine was planning. And what I was planning would turn the very thing he called love into a cage he couldn't break out of. Because if he believed he could cheat without consequence, then I would become the consequence. He thought I was healing. He thought I had accepted his betrayal like a loyal wife should, silently, bitterly, but ultimately, passively. But the truth was far from that. I wasn't healing. I was studying. I wore a mask so convincing even I started to believe it at times. I smiled when he walked in. I nodded when he muttered his shallow excuses. I even laughed at his terrible jokes, just enough to make him think everything was fine. He began to relax. He thought my silence meant surrender. He had no idea it was just the beginning. I followed every breadcrumb he dropped without realizing. I learned about Ria, not just her name, but her habits, her address, her favorite cafe, her weekend routines. She wasn't just the other woman. She was my mirror. My contrast. She had what was mine. Or rather, what I used to think was mine. But I didn't hate her. No, women like Rhea rarely know they're part of a lie. It was him I wanted to destroy. Not by leaving. Not by crying. Not by fighting. By letting him build his tower of lies so high, so bold, that when it came crashing down, the fall would be endless. I became the perfect wife again on the surface. I cooked again. I kissed him again. I even suggested we go out more, take pictures like we used to. He liked it. He liked feeling forgiven. That was the one thing men like him never expect for the woman they destroy to forgive them. Because that makes them careless. I saw his pattern now. He was the kind of man who needed to feel adored to stay. Not loved, adored, worshiped. So I gave him what he wanted. For now. But behind my smile, I was planting seeds. Seeds of control. Seeds of evidence. Seeds of revenge. I started documenting everything, screenshots of messages, voice recordings, even camera footage from the smart device he'd forgotten we had installed in the hallway mirror. The one he always walked past, whispering to her on the phone late at night. I backed it all up in 3 separate drives. One in my locker. One with a friend. And one with the lawyer he didn't know I had already met. But I didn't stop there. I started talking to people quietly. His colleagues. His clients. His business rivals. He had skeletons, so many, and none of them were buried deep. He had built a fragile empire of charm and deception. And I had all the time in the world to light a match. And through it all, I stayed beside him. He didn't know the woman lying next to him every night had already started preparing his end. He didn't know the food I served came with a smile and a strategy. He didn't know that every time he kissed my forehead, he was sealing his own fate. Because betrayal doesn't always come with shouting matches and slammed doors. Sometimes, it comes dressed as patience. Sometimes, it smiles sweetly while sharpening its knives in silence. And I was almost done sharpening mine. It was our wedding anniversary. He forgot. No card. No flowers. Not even a happy anniversary in passing. But I smiled anyway. Woke up early. Cooked his favorite breakfast. Laid the table with the silverware he liked. Dressed in the red sari he once said made me look like a dream. When he walked in, groggy and disinterested, I kissed his cheek. "Happy anniversary, love," I whispered. He blinked, clearly caught off guard. "Oh, yeah. Right. Happy anniversary." I laughed, as if his forgetfulness was endearing. "Don't worry. I've planned something special for us tonight." That woke him up. He perked up, flattered. He liked surprises, especially when they fed his ego. I spent the day setting the scene. I cleaned every corner of the house. I lit candles, cooked a lavish dinner, decorated the bedroom with rose petals like I was still madly in love with the man who had quietly murdered me from the inside. I even bought him a gift. A new watch. Sleek. Expensive. One he had admired months ago but said was too pricey. He came home early that night, freshly shaved, wearing cologne and that smug little smile he used when he thought he had everything under control. He looked around the house, stunned. "You did all this?" I nodded gently. "For us." He took my hand, kissed it. "I don't deserve you." I almost laughed in his face. But I didn't. Not yet. We ate together. Laughed. Took pictures. I let him wrap his arms around me. Let him touch my hair. Whisper sweet nothings he didn't mean. He poured wine. Complimented my cooking. Held me close during our slow dance in the living room. And I played the part. Because that night wasn't just for him. It was for me. It was the final test. Would I feel anything left for him? Would even a tiny flicker of love survive the way he burned me? But when he held me close, all I felt was cold. When he looked into my eyes, I saw a stranger. And when he said, "Thank you for staying by my side," all I wanted to do was scream. Not because I was sad, but because he still thought this was love. He still thought he'd won. He had no idea the noose was already around his neck. He didn't know that while he danced with me, my lawyer was preparing the first email. He didn't know that while he poured wine, the cloud drive was syncing all the evidence, affairs, finances, blackmail material. He didn't know that while he laughed with me, I had already sent the invitation for his fall. Because this night wasn't a celebration. It was a farewell. To the man he used to pretend to be. And to the woman I used to be. I let him fall asleep beside me, satisfied, thinking he'd finally won back his perfect wife. But he didn't know. I was already gone. And what was coming next would leave him begging for the pain to stop. The next morning, he left for work like he always did, phone in hand, ego intact, lips pressed to my forehead like a man who believed he was still adored. But the second the door closed behind him, I turned into something else. Not the broken wife. Not the wounded woman. But the storm he had unknowingly fed day after day, lie after lie. I changed the locks first. He wouldn't need them anymore. Then I called the lawyer. Send it, I said. Just that. One word. Enough to ignite the chain reaction I had planned for months. Within the hour, it began. First, his boss received an anonymous email, complete with screenshots of explicit office chats, flagged financial irregularities tied to Rhea, and a timeline of every day he'd taken sick leave to meet her. Second, the real estate agent managing our joint property got a call from me. I froze the accounts. Had the paperwork redrafted. The house was under my name, and he'd been too arrogant to ever notice the signatures. Third, the world saw his real face. I uploaded a private video to a hidden link. One of him drunk, angry, confessing to everything while on a call with Rhea. He had no idea I'd recorded it through the security mirror. Then, I sent the link to everyone. His family. His friends. Even Rhea. Rhea's reaction was the sweetest part. Her call came first, sobbing, furious, humiliated. I let it ring. Let her feel what it's like to be used. Then came the text from him. What the hell is going on? Why did Rhea block me? Did you send something to my boss? Answer me, damn it. I turned my phone off. Let silence speak for me. By evening, he came back home, furious, pounding on the door. But it didn't open. I watched him through the camera. His panic. His confusion. The slow realization that this time, he wasn't in control. I finally answered his call. Open the door, he shouted. I smiled into the phone. This isn't your home anymore. What are you talking about? I live there. You can't. You did live here. But now, this house belongs to someone who doesn't betray vows. And that's not you. He screamed. Threatened. Cursed. But I stayed calm. Calm like a storm right before it swallows everything. Do you know what it feels like? I said. To be loyal to someone who rots your soul every night? I do. But now, you will too. Wait, please. Don't do this. We can fix this. I'll end things with Rhea. You already did. I cut in. She ended it. She saw the truth. Everyone has. And then I said the words I had waited months to say. You told me I was your honor. But I became the mirror that showed you exactly who you are. He begged then. Actually begged. It was pathetic. I ended the call without another word, and let him stand outside, alone, exposed, broken. Because now, the storm had a name. Mine. And he was only just beginning to feel its wrath. He used to walk like he owned the world, head high, chest out, smile smug. Now, he walked like a man carrying ruins on his back. Within 48 hours, everything he built collapsed. His company launched an internal investigation. The board distanced themselves. His boss, the one who once praised him for being charismatic and reliable, now refused to even take his calls. His clients left. The contracts dried up. That luxury car he was so proud of, repossessed. And the house he once called our sanctuary, sold. because I had already moved the funds into a trust under my name. Legal, clean, irreversible. He tried to fight it, tried to play the victim. But there was too much evidence. Too many lies. Too many people who saw who he really was. And Ria? She wasn't silent either. Turns out, betrayal doesn't sit well with her either. She exposed her own screenshots, his manipulation, his promises, the way he pitted her against me like a game of chess where only he could win. Suddenly, the man who once basked in attention became untouchable. His phone stopped ringing. The friends he partied with disappeared. The family that once smiled at our wedding pictures now stared at him with disgust. He tried to see me, camped outside the office building where I now worked. Yes, worked. Because I had gone back to reclaim what I'd put on pause for him. My career. My confidence. My name. He waited in the lobby for hours. One day, I finally walked past him. He stood up, eyes red, voice shaking. Please, talk to me. I didn't stop. Didn't flinch. Didn't even look at him. I whispered just loud enough for him to hear as I passed by. You taught me silence. I'm just returning the gift. He broke down in the middle of that lobby. In front of security. In front of the receptionist. In front of the world he once thought bowed to him. But I didn't stop walking. Because the woman he broke no longer existed. I had become someone else now. Someone he created. With every lie, every night spent loving someone else while I lay beside him, dying inside. He wanted to play God in our marriage. He wanted to be the one who saved me, then shattered me. But gods don't beg on marble floors. Gods don't cry into voicemail boxes hoping for a second chance. And gods certainly don't get destroyed by the very woman they underestimated. But he did. And that was just the beginning. Because I hadn't finished yet. The worst part of his punishment was still coming. 3 months had passed. 3 months of silence. Of headlines fading. Of whispers quieting just enough to let him hope again. And that's exactly what I wanted. Because sometimes, the cruelest thing you can do to someone isn't breaking them. It's letting them believe you might rebuild them. I heard through the grapevine that he was trying to start over. A new job interview. A cheaper apartment. Counseling. Even. I laughed when I heard that last part. Counseling. The same man who once called emotions a weakness and therapy a scam. Now drowning in his own reflection. And just when he thought the storm had passed, I reached out. Just one text. Meet me at our old cafe. Noon tomorrow. I need closure. He replied in seconds. I'll be there. Of course he would. Hope is a dangerous thing. Especially when given to a man who once thrived on control. I wore white that day. Not for peace, but to remind him of the wedding dress I wore the day I believed he'd protect me forever. I arrived 5 minutes early. He arrived 10 minutes late. His eyes lit up when he saw me. He was thinner. His face hollowed out by guilt and sleepless nights. But his voice still carried that same arrogance. I didn't think you'd want to see me, he said softly, sitting down across from me. I sipped my tea. Calm. Detached. I needed to look at you one last time. To understand how I ever believed you were a man. He winced. I know I messed up. But I've changed. I've been working on myself. I've been going to therapy. Stop, I interrupted. This isn't about your redemption. He stared at me, confused. Then why am I here? I leaned forward slightly. To thank you. He blinked. What? I smiled coldly. You taught me what strength really looks like. What survival feels like. I used to think love meant sacrificing myself for someone else. Now I know. Love means protecting yourself from someone like you. He opened his mouth to speak, but I continued. I needed closure. But not for me. For you. I slid an envelope across the table. Inside? Pictures. Printed emails. legal documents, records of every affair, every lie, every bank transaction he tried to hide. His hand trembled as he flipped through them. "These are copies," I said. "The originals? Sent to the hiring board of the company you just interviewed with." He looked up, stunned. "Why would you?" "Because you don't get to start fresh," I whispered. "You don't get to hurt women like me and then walk away clean. You called me your honor, but you treated me like your secret shame. So now, you get to live in the shadow of your own truth." His lips parted, but no words came out. Just silence. Crushing. Cold. Real. I stood up. "I gave you hope, just so you'd understand what it feels like to lose it." And then, I walked away. Not just from him, but from the last piece of the pain he left behind. Because revenge wasn't just about making him suffer. It was about reclaiming me. And I had never felt more powerful. He never contacted me again after that cafe. No calls. No texts. Not even those late-night voicemails filled with regret and desperation. Because now, he understood. There was no door left to knock on. No apology deep enough to crawl through. No version of the woman he destroyed that would ever let him back in. The company withdrew their offer the next day. His reputation? Finished. Not because I slandered him, but because I revealed him. He moved out of the city shortly after. Some say he's living with a distant cousin. Others say he's still trying to get back on his feet. I don't care enough to confirm either. Because I'm not looking back anymore. I've started living. Really living. I moved to a new apartment with light in every corner and silence that brings peace, not pain. I went back to school, finished my degree, pursued the career I once paused to support his dreams. I've built a circle of people who see me, not as a broken wife, but as a woman who walked through fire and came out pure steel. Sometimes, I still get asked about him. "You don't miss him?" I always smile. Not a cruel smile. Not a bitter one either. Just peace. And I say, I miss the woman I was before him. But I love the woman I became because of him. Because in trying to break me, he ended up building someone who could no longer be bent. In lying to me, he taught me to tell myself the truth I had long ignored. And in making me feel disposable, he made me realize I was priceless. He called me his honor. But he never knew what honor truly was. Honor isn't in words spoken at a wedding. It's in actions taken when no one is watching. And now, his punishment isn't just what I did to him. It's waking up every single day, knowing he lost the one person who truly saw him and still chose to stay. Until he gave her no choice but to walk away. And never look back. So if you're listening, if you've ever been broken, lied to, made to feel like you were too much or not enough all at once, let me tell you something. You don't have to destroy them with fire. Just survive them with silence. Because sometimes, the coldest revenge is peace.